Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another Destiny video. And oh my gosh, it's a great day to be a Destiny fan. Today at E3, during the PlayStation press conference, Bungie unveiled the Taken King. They dropped a trailer and it contained so much awesome stuff, so I'm here to give you the lowdown. I'm going to run through the trailer, break it down, talk about all the cool stuff that was shown, so let's not waste any time and let's get straight into it. So, the trailer begins by panning down this really long hive ship. This is actually known as the Dreadnought. This is Arekkz's ship, and it's a location we will be visiting in the Taken King. Now, Arekkz is the father of Crota, and obviously he's a little bit pissed off because we killed Crota, so he's come to seek revenge. So this right here is a look at the ship, and as I said, one of the playable locations we'll be visiting in the Taken King. Then if I pause it here for a second, this looks remarkably like a new location. While some parts of it look like they could well be the moon, from the scenes we see here and also the scenes we see a little bit later on in the video, I do genuinely believe this is potentially a new planet or a new location we're going to be visiting.
Can you blame him? You killed his son with his own sword.
Then this section here, this just kind of reiterates what I was talking about before, how obviously Arekkz is a little bit pissed off because we killed Crota, who's his son, but the interesting thing here is the Titan here is the sword bearer, but he's wearing some fancy new gear. Now obviously there are no details right now about the gear itself, but obviously we do know that the Taken King will have a whole host of new weapons, new gear, new supers, loads and loads of new stuff, so this is a first glimpse at some new armor pieces.
His own sword.
And then this bit here is extremely interesting. Now, Arekkz is known as the Taken King, and he leads an army known as the Taken. Now, the Taken are actually enemy types or beings from the existing world that are taken back into sort of, wherever it is that Arekkz is from. They're then changed and they're then teleported back in.
No.
If you see this room here, for example, this is likely the middle ground. They get taken from our world or from the moon, Venus, wherever it is they're taken from. They get dropped here, changed, and then in a minute, we'll actually get to see them coming back in. But before that, if we switch to the next scene,
he's out for revenge.
You get a first look at what I believe is Arekkz. Obviously that is a little bit of speculation on my part, but given the fact he's got the three eyes like Crota does, and there's obviously a lot of focus on him, he clearly is a very main character, so I would be willing to bet that that is indeed Arekkz.
And he's building a dark army.
Then as mentioned, if you look at the next scene, this is the Taken army then coming back through the portal. As mentioned, they're now coming back in a changed stance, and we're now going to start seeing some new enemy types that we haven't seen before.
Dark army to hunt you down.
Now pause here, this is probably one of the more interesting ones. This here looks like what could be, say, a Centurion, but instead with sort of like a backpack on, and he's also got like a flaming sort of part on his arm, whether it's sort of like a shield or like a blade or something like that. But in terms of physiology or like body structure, he clearly is not only a Cabal, but does have that very sort of Centurion build to him. So I think it's likely that this is a Centurion enemy that's been taken away, modified, and then returned to the world.
But I've heard the legends.
And then this over here, now this we have actually seen. Not in game, we've actually seen it in the concept art. You may remember in the concept art before, there was an image where there was sort of like a bridge and some capsules hanging down with some chains before. That obviously had a very hive-like feel to it, and now actually having a chance to see it in the trailer clearly indicates that that picture was actually the inside of a hive ship, and therefore we know it is actually the Dreadnought, which is again Arekkz's ship.
You're ready.
Now I then want to pause here for a second because this is, as we know from Destiny, whenever you fly into a new planet, you have the scene with your ship and it flies down onto a planet, and hopefully if you play Destiny enough, you should kind of begin to recognise what the different planets look like. This right here is not a planet we've currently seen. So that then further reinforces the point I made at the beginning of the video when I said I believe that first sort of shot was from a new location. Then over here, we get another look at a hunter running down this bridge, again looking like it was in that same location we saw both at the beginning of the video and obviously the planet we were just flying into. Now there is one thing I do want to say, which is super speculative and probably just coincidence, but the fact that you see the ship flying by the side of the Guardian, could it well indicate that there could be some sort of ship-based combat, or is it simply a case that you've landed and then you're seeing your ship fly away while you're walking down the environment? The latter is probably more likely, but given that normally we don't necessarily see our ships kind of pass us, that is something potentially worth calling out. And also, obviously, if you look at the Hunter, you can clearly see some fancy new armour. A new cloak, a new weapon, basically everything he's wearing is brand new. And then we're going to stop here. This is the first look at one of the new supers. If you cast your mind back to the leaks that came out just before E3, you'll remember they said that the Hunter would have a Void Bow, the Titan would have a Solar Hammer, and the Warlock would generate Arc Storms. And those were indeed correct. This right here is indeed a Void Bow, and it comes under the Night Stalker class. That's the name of the new Void class for the Hunter, and the super is called Shadow Shot. It allows you to tether a large group of foes to a Void Anchor, which slows them and suppresses them for your fire team. So for example, if you had a large group of Thrall, you could fire it down in the middle of them, and it would hold them down, slow them down, suppress them, so that way you could deal with them as a group. And then next up, we have the Warlock and the Stormcaller subclass. The super is called Storm Trance, which allows you to chain arc lightning from your hands. You also have a grenade, which is called the Storm Grenade, and this grenade calls down localized lightning storms, so effectively wherever you throw the grenade is where the lightning comes down. And then finally, the Titan. Your subclass is called the Sunbreaker, and this does indeed summon a solar hammer. The super is called Hammer of Sol, and you summon a flaming hammer and you wreak destruction down upon your enemies. Then, if I pause here for a second, we get another look at some of the armour. Now, it's far too early for me to actually talk about it individually. Obviously, there isn't any information on it just yet, but as and when the Destiny database does gradually get updated, I will obviously fill you in on individual pieces. But for the time being, take a look at the Hunter, for example. He has what looks like a kind of wolf helmet with a sort of slightly shorter cloak. The Warlock in the background has a sort of interesting, like, brown metal helmet with an equally cool looking cape. And obviously, the Titan is a little bit off shot. This looks like it could well be a fancy new shotgun. It has a very exotic look to it, and the way that it's drawn, it kind of flips out and then joins together, so all of those traits do indicate a potentially exotic weapon. And you then get to see it in first person over here.
Arekkz is coming, Guardian. You got his attention. Now, go get his head.
And then this is probably one of our best looks at Arekkz. We saw him at the beginning of the trailer where he was sort of like surrounded in light, so you didn't really get a great chance to sort of look at him, but you can see here, he really is a massive dude. He's got the 3 eyes at the top, just like Crota, he's got some massive wings, and he's also carrying a hefty sword. So whereas at the start of the video, he looked like he could have potentially just been like a wizard, when you actually see him now, you can see he is most definitely not that. So, that, my friends, is it for now. There is obviously a hell of a lot more in the trailer, and I will be going back through it once I get back from E3 with a fine-tooth comb and trying to sort of like dig out all the fine details. But for the time being, I want to bring you guys a really quick breakdown, talk about some of the interesting things or some of like the core things, like the supers, and a few things like that. But for the time being, that will do. Don't forget to leave a like and hit that subscribe button, and thank you very much for watching. Take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.